as I drink from my coldest water bottle. That's right, the coldest water bottle on the market keeps drinks cold 36 to 100 hours, comes in all different shapes, sizes, and colors. I'm giving one away free, well, I'm not, but you can click on the link in the description and you may win one of these free. You can also shop for some using a code and get 10% off. All that's in the description below. Make sure to check it out. But it makes me wonder, what did predators drink? I mean, we know according to the crazy Gary Busey, they had an affinity for beef. But I don't know, what did they... My God. You really are one ugly mother... As the Extreme channel is pushing towards 50,000 subscribers, these are just a few of the statues we are giving away on the journey there. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into the Extreme channel. Today we are looking at an older piece. I'm traveling quite a bit in the month of June 2021 when this is launching, so I'm taking out some of my older pieces that I own that I've never reviewed. And it's actually a good process, not only for you to get to see some pieces that I've never done in-close detailed reviews on, but for me to determine, do I still really like this? Do I still really need it? Now I'm going to let you know right out of the way that this one definitely has its problems, but I am 100% keeping it. And I think those reasons will actually surprise you, and we'll get to that later. So first of all, this is a life-size bust of the City Hunter Predator made by Cool Props. So the City Hunter Predator was, in my opinion, one of the worst Predator movies out there, Predator 2, and it was wrong for so many reasons. I really like the concept that, hey, the Predator is actually coming to a big city, but I thought all the roles were miscast. I thought for the most part, the creature was not the best Predator that they ever had, although he had some cool new weapons he introduced. Which makes you even beg the question, well, why do you have this bust? Because honestly, there's about 10 to 20 different Predator busts out there, and a lot of them are quite amazing, yet this is the only one that I own. Now, I've also owned the Sideshow City Predator maquette, this piece right here, which I actually ended up trading for another piece because I just wasn't a fan. And right now, I actually have the tracking number for Prime One Studios' City Hunter Predator in the 1/4 scale. So when that comes, I'll bring a review to you guys. But today we're going to focus on this guy. We're going to talk about what I don't like about it, what I think the problems are, and why do I own it, and why am I not selling it if there's problems with it and I wasn't that big of a fan of the movie or the character. Now before we do that, I actually have this displayed with a whole theme of alien and horror busts. If you want to see what that looks like, make sure to check out some of my other networks, specifically TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. The link for those is in the description below. Also, really quick, if you want to see those upcoming reviews of a bunch of Predator pieces I have coming in, I actually talked about them in this video about what's coming up in the month of June. Make sure you've not only liked this video, but you subscribe to the channel and you've hit that bell notification. You really are one ugly mother. You know, it's funny, people said if Night of the Museum ever happened in the X basement here, I would be in deep shit. I have to agree with them. Although I think some of them, like him, would probably side with me because we kind of feel the same way about humans. Also, do you ever wonder what Predator's names were? Like, clearly they didn't call him City Predator, like his mother didn't name him that. I'm thinking it was something like Earl. What do you think? That could be something you comment below. But enough of that, let's check this guy out, starting with concept as we always do. Now with the bust, concept is incredibly difficult. One thing I do like about this concept is you actually have a front, and it's the upper torso of the Predator. Now, while I don't think it's done that well, you can see a little bit of stuff going on. You see a nameplate on the front, which I absolutely hate. If you don't know this is a Predator, you wouldn't like it anyway. But you see some of his armor on top of some of his skin, and the paint and sculpt down there isn't very good, kind of a spoiler. But as you move up, you get to the star of the show, which is his portrait, and I love this bust. While I'm not a huge fan of this particular Predator, and I think there's some paint and sculpt details we're going to look at, I think the expression right here is incredibly fierce and freaky, and that's what I love. I'm not a big fan of Predators when their mandibles are closed, and I think this is open, not too wide, but just the proper amount. So I think they nailed that. Now this guy has a big noggin on the top of his head. As you move up, there's some design issues we're going to talk about, but I really like how it displays that entire top portion of him. And it's almost a little overpowering, but this looks pretty accurate to the movie. So I really appreciate that because I think accuracy is a big thing that ties in with concept. And they did it well. You see the dreads coming out of his sides, which we'll talk about during paint and sculpt. But nonetheless, it's good. I think it's really good for a concept. I think the likeness is there. I think the fierceness is there. From front on, he looks really good. I think it's a 4 out of 5 on this concept. Now we're going to jump into design, and there's some things here that I'm not a fan of, and if you've watched any of my other bust reviews, I owned about 30 busts, you'll see that there's a trend. Now first of all, this is all one piece. There's no separate pieces, and it's actually pretty light. Regarding the size, the widest point is the shoulders, and that's about 26 inches, so it is quite wide. The deepest part, you get kind of his gun. On the base, it's a little over 18, 19 inches. The mandibles are going to add an additional 4 inches, so that's a pretty deep piece. And then the tallest point is probably, it's hard to tell exactly, but I'm going to say it's just under 26 and a half or so, which makes sense because the display I have them in, there's a top that's a little over 26 and a half inches. Now, the first thing I don't like, we already talked about it, the nameplate. Why do you need a nameplate on the bottom? It should be removable. I don't care that this is Predator 2. I would have even preferred it to say City Hunter. Other big problem you guys know I hate with busts, this. This right here is ugly, it's stupid, I don't like it. However, I do appreciate that the armor kind of shields it when you're looking at it from the front. So I'm kind of okay with that. Now, realistically, there's not a lot more to this piece. One design issue we're going to talk about paint and sculpt because I already filmed it is the spikes right here are actually a pliable material so they won't break off. To me, that was really smart. I don't know why they don't do that on more statues because it still looks good. And then you have these rings that are actually mixed media. I think that adds a little bit of flair to it, so I like it. So I think there's some good things and some bad things. So overall, I think it's a 3 out of 5 on the design of this piece. Now with the paint and sculpt, however, this was done quite a while ago. This is actually one of the first busts that I ever got. I think it was the second one after the Alien Warrior that you can actually check out the video right here. And as you can imagine, a lot of times older pieces can't compete with new ones. That's the case here, but I still really like him because I just like this bust. But this is what I'm talking about. As I alluded to earlier, this bust really doesn't stand up against current busts when it comes to the paint and sculpt. So keep that in mind as we dive in, starting at the bottom here. So it's very apparent that beyond the nameplate, which really isn't a big deal, as we talked about it, not really my choice, the skin where it melds with the rope isn't the best back there. There could be some texture on the skin, and in my opinion, kind of a complete miss there. Of course, you're not drawn to that. You're more drawn to the armor, and I like the tarnished look of the armor. Again, it doesn't have some of that micro detail we expect to see in especially busts today. You're gonna see that everywhere on this statue. But it looks okay. I mean, honestly, the paint job is good. I think the paint's better than the sculpt. Let's look at the braids, the dreadlocks here. Now, as we talked about, a little bit of mixed media on the rings that actually move. It's done pretty well for an older sculpt. I mean, I would have liked to see a little bit more definition between the different dreadlocks, but it still looks pretty good, I think. It looks pretty full, which granted you don't see of this part of the statue that often. A little bit of the shoulder blades there. And instead of that gold armor aspect, they're more of a silver. And then even up here, so you have the different pattern on his skin from his chest. You kind of see it starting right there, the red with black dots. Looks all right, more of that mixed media. I think this looks better than this down here. But of course, we go to this piece because of the head and the portrait. So let's take a look at that. I think they did a nice job on the paint. It really pops that orange-red color mixed in with his skin. And there is more texture on his skin up here, more of a cracked effect that you see when you look close. The little spines or spikes coming out. Now these are bendable, they're pliable. So that's nice that they won't break off. A lot of the 1/4 scale, they're rigid, and I think every single one has had some break off. So I like the pattern. I think it looks good. I think the glistening effect really makes it pop. And a lot of that can be said down here with the portrait. So starting on the outside of it, again, a lot of the same comments about the skin. I like how it's stretched. It looks very real. I think that's done really nicely. It kind of is a huge contrast between this and some of the stuff we were looking at down here. This is clearly where they focus their time. On the inside of the mandible, you know, they have that yellow drool effect, which I like because it's different. I wouldn't have wanted, you know, a green, despite the fact that that's their blood color. Just gives it this nasty, slimy effect. And then those pink tones they used inside as well just make it look really disgusting, and I think that's what you want to do. Disgusting and scary. Little black forked tongue coming out of there, and I like all the ridges and details inside of the mouth here. It's not with veins like what we're seeing in a lot of the newer pieces. I think the teeth look great. How plaqued they are, I guess is the right word to say. The yellow, the black and yellow on it, and fading to more of an almost transparent resin. It's appearing a little bit more yellow in the video than it is in real life, but I love how they're jutting out of the bottom and the top. The teeth, in my opinion, are a knockout of the park. So the other thing to look at are the eyes. Eyes are a very early attempt at something decent. I like what they tried to do with them, with almost the bloodshot eyes with the veins running everywhere on the purple pupil. But based on today's standards, it's kind of mediocre. At the time, it was probably pretty amazing. And I like the darker paint around the eyes. I think it really contrasts and brings them out. So again, just a really scary portrait here, which I think is what you want to go for with Predator, despite some of the flaws we see. So sculpt, honestly, like we talked about, the portrait is done very well, especially for the time. I would actually probably give that a 4 out of 5. The rest of it, though, to me, is almost a 2 out of 5. However, your inclination is to kind of go towards that portrait. So because of that, I'm going to give it a strong 3 out of 5. I think you could even justify a 4 out of 5, but because there's a lot of other stuff lacking. Paint's going to follow a lot of that same logic, honestly. They did really well in here, minus some of the issues I have with the eyes. The rest of it's kind of lacking, so I think it's a very strong 3. One could make an argument for a weak 4 out of 5, but 3. And as a reminder, on this channel, that still means it's good. Now, value. So this was $1,200, and that was quite a while ago. And honestly, I think I see it going for around $1,500 in the secondary market. I don't know how many they made of these because there's not an editions number on the size. There's not with a lot of these cool props pieces. It just says limited edition. But it has a lot of competition out there. I think if I recall correctly, I got them for like $900 at the time, but that was years and years ago. So again, we don't grade value on older pieces, but I do like to mention it. But let's talk about the X Factor. Is this kind of freaky? Do you love it? Do you walk up to it and say, wow, that's really cool? Looking at it straight on like this, I have to agree that, yeah, this has the X Factor, at least for me. The expression on his face, the likeness of the creature, even though I'm not a huge fan of this Predator, I really dig this bust. And I think this is one of the first pieces I ever gave a 5 out of 5 X Factor score to with other poor scores. We will be giving all of these statues away, plus additional ones at every 5,000 subscriber milestone. To win one of these statues, all you have to do is make sure you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, you've hit that bell notification, and then just drop a comment below. Every 5,000 subscriber milestone, we are going to do a random drawing and pick a random comment and give one of these statues away, plus some additional ones I'm not showing right now. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. So let me know what you think of this piece. Am I dick riding him too much? I wonder what a Predator dick looks like, but let me know that in the comments what you think of him, not what a Predator dick looks like. But make sure to hit me a like on the way out. I'd really appreciate it. And if you want to see that upcoming stuff again, make sure you hit that picture of me to subscribe. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.